Hello, welcome to Loops by Lucia. My name is Lucia, and here I talk about all things knitting, crochet, and any other crafty thing I happen to be into at the moment. Today, it is the end of August as I am filming this, and I have been just chomping at the bit to work on some fall sweaters. I really am not a fan of the summer knit. I don't love cotton. I don't love linen. I don't love making these short knit pieces because I find that they tend to not really work with any sort of weather, because even if I make like a tank top, I find that the weather will probably be too warm to wear like a knitted piece of fabric, even if it's just a tank top. So I've just been so eager to work on some sweaters, and I already cheated a little bit and finished one. I've got the Wood Anemone sweater by Sari Nordling currently blocking in my kitchen. But other than that, I've been patient and I've been waiting, and it is time to start working on these sweaters. Oh my goodness. So real quick, sorry, I've got a little guest today. Hi, this is Kyrie. She's my new kitty. She wants to get down. Okay. She's totally gonna be distracting me in this video. We just got her a couple of days ago, so we are just like obsessed with her, and she will definitely be distracting me during this video, and I think that's wonderful. All of the patterns that I'm going to speak about today are all pullover knitted patterns. I usually go to crochet for my cardigans because I really don't like to knit flat if I don't have to, and because crochet tends to work up quicker. So usually crochet for cardigans and knit for pullovers. I have 3 sets of patterns today. I have DK weight patterns, I have worsted weight patterns, and I have bulky weight patterns. So I'm gonna go in order of weight to talk about these patterns. So go ahead and grab a project on your needles and get cozy, and let's talk about some fall sweaters. Heads up, I'm gonna be looking at my notes for most of this video. I have my iPad here where I took all of the notes on the different patterns. So if you see me looking off to the side, I'm not ignoring you. Now the first sweater that I'm going to talk about today is a DK weight sweater, and it is the Home Sweater V-neck by Kadri. This is an oversized drop shoulder V-neck sweater. It's worked top down, flat in the front and back, and then connected at the bottom of the V-neck. It is a DK weight pattern. The gauge is 16 stitches, 25 rows on 5mm needles for your 4x4 square. This sweater has 8 to 10 inches of positive ease, and with that fuzziness of the fiber that you hopefully choose, it will just look like the coziest little blanket of a sweater. The yarn that this pattern calls for is Gregoria Fibers Cloud, which is no longer sold, so I have picked up some Isayer Soft, which is this extremely fuzzy, beautiful alpaca-based yarn. It is 56% alpaca, 44% organic cotton. It comes in 50-gram balls, and I bought 8. Hopefully that will be enough for size 3 of this pattern. I am so obsessed with this yarn. I had actually planned to use a different Isayer yarn, the Isayer Eco Baby, but I found that I was just really missing that fuzzy quality that comes with this kind of yarn, just that fluffy cloud-like feel. So I decided to go ahead and pick some of this up, and I bought this at Looped Yarn Works in Washington, D.C. I have actually already started working on this pattern. I've gauge swatched, and I'm going to be using 5.5mm needles instead of 5 to meet gauge. That is a trend for me. I tend to knit very tightly, so I always end up going at least 1 needle size higher than the pattern calls for. I am also going to be doing a knitting vlog on this sweater, so keep an eye out in the next couple of weeks for that vlog. The next pattern is the Daydream Zephyr sweater by Julia Pirro. This is a top-down raglan knit in the round with some simple cabling that is sort of counted as the raglan seams, if you will. This pattern also includes some thin stripes on the bottom 2/3 of the body and the sleeves, so you have a little bit of color work there as well. This is a DK weight pattern. It is 20 stitches by 29 rows on 4mm needles, and it calls for 6 to 7.5 inches of positive ease. So the pattern calls for Sandnesgarn Lena, and I do have some here that I plan to use for the pattern. You need 2 colors, as I said. You've got your main color, and then you're going to need at least 2 skeins of your stripe color as well. And the 2 colors I have here are beige and green. This is a 53% cotton, 33% viscose rayon, and 14% linen. It is really kind of an intriguing texture I'm not super used to, but I am excited to give this yarn a whirl. I really like this pattern because it is a pretty simple stockinette sweater with some striping, but if you're looking for that little accent, it has that really sweet little cabling on the raglan seams, and I think that that's a really nice artsy little touch to the sweater. Next up, we have the Monday sweater by Petite Knit. This is a favorite. I'm sure you are all familiar with this sweater, but this is a top-down raglan with a folded neckband. It's a DK weight sweater, or fingering plus lace, which is what Petite Knit likes to do. The gauge is 21 stitches, 28 rows on 4mm needles, and it calls for 6 to 8 inches of positive ease. This is your most standard stockinette sweater if you're just looking for a very simple wardrobe staple, or a pattern that you can maybe use one of your nice self-striping yarns on, give it a little bit of zhuzh in the color. The cat is sitting at the kitchen table. She thinks she's a human. I love her. The yarn that this pattern calls for is Santa's Garn Sunday, which is a 100% merino wool held together with some sort of mohair, either the Filcolon Attilia, the Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair, something along those lines, but I really don't like to hold yarns together if I can't help it. So I have another Essayer yarn here. This is the Essayer Eco Baby. So similar to the Essayer Soft, this is a blend of baby alpaca and organic cotton, but this has a little bit more alpaca content. This is 68% baby alpaca, 32% organic cotton. And I'm gonna go ahead and hold these together so you can see the slight difference. The fuzz takes up a lot of space in the ball of yarn that is the soft. And then the Eco Baby is a little bit of a tighter chainette yarn. This is a self-striping yarn. It has this really nice variegation between the white and the gray. This is in the colorway 2S, which is light gray. I picked this up, as well as the Santa's Garn Lena that I just spoke about with the Daydreams Ever sweater, at the Yarn Club in Virginia Beach. It was a really charming shop. I had a wonderful time with the woman there, and she did ask if I would give her a shout out. So shouting out the wonderful owner of the Yarn Club in Virginia Beach. The next pattern that I have here is the Dear Duomo sweater by Seung-hee Hong. This is worked bottom up in the round and then separated for the top with some built-in faux pearl stitch seaming. This is a DK weight pattern. It is 20 stitches by 28 rows on 4.5mm needles. It has 6 to 8 inches of positive ease. The pattern suggests holding a fingering and a lace double. It suggests using the Cashmere Cavern Sock by Explorer Knits, which is an 80% merino, 10% nylon, 10% cashmere goat, and then holding it together with the Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair, which is 70% mohair and 30% silk. But as I said, I don't prefer to hold yarns double. I prefer to just have one nice long strand of DK. So here I have the Barocco Tilly. This is a 62% Pima cotton, 38% other yarn, and I got this from Magpie Knits in Charlottesville, Virginia. I believe this was a brand new yarn when I purchased this back in March, and I have just been waiting for the perfect pattern to come around. I think it finally has. I have gauge swatched this, and I'm going to, I believe, stick with the 4.5mm needles for this pattern. And this is in the colorway Algadeo. I have one more DK weight sweater pattern. If none of these seem like the right fit to you, then maybe this one will be. This is the Percussion Pullover by Amanda Lee. This is a drop shoulder knit from the bottom up, very simplistic stockinette stitch. It is a DK weight pattern, 20 stitches for 28 rows on 4.5mm needles, the exact same gauge as the previous pattern. I have gauge swatched this as well, and I'm going to be using 5mm needles for this. It recommends 2 to 7 inches of positive ease. It recommends using Trubo, which is a Lion brand yarn, 100% rayon from bamboo, but I am going to be using this yarn that I've had in my stash for years and I'm finally ready to get rid of. This is the Quince & Co. Phoebe. It is 100% merino, and this is the color Andromeda. I have a little bit of a horror story that you will probably hear at some point with this yarn through no fault of its own, only my fault, which resulted in a ruined garment, unfortunately. But I am excited to use this lovely rosy pink blush color for the Percussion Pullover. Moving on to the worsted weight patterns. The first one I have for you is the Gemma by Joanna Ang. This is a drop shoulder sweater with a folded neckband. It features quite quite wide central panel of cabling, and then it has a couple of thinner panels of cabling next to the central panel and on the sleeves. This is a worsted weight pattern. It is a 14.5 stitch 21 row gauge swatch on 5.5 millimeter needles. This pattern calls for 4 to 9 3/4 inch positive ease. The pattern recommends holding together 2 strands of the Lanavendel A Chic blend. This is a light fingering weight yarn. It is 60% wool, 20% alpaca, and 20% mohair. But I am going to be using the Cascade 220 by Cascade Yarns in the color Japanese Maple, and this is a 100% wool yarn. I've never done an elaborately cabled pattern before in my life, so I'm actually really excited to learn a new skill this fall as I work on that sweater. Moving on to another petite knit pattern, probably another one you are familiar with if you are into cabling. This is the Moby sweater. This is a top-down drop shoulder cable pattern. It has this really cool sort of crisscross middle panel with several thin cable panels on the body and sleeves. It is a worsted weight pattern, which she uses a DK plus a lace yarn held together for. The gauge is 20 stitches for 28 rows on 4 millimeter needles, and it has 6 to 8 inches of positive ease that it calls for. It recommends using the Jensen by Isayer, which is a 100% merino, and the Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair, but I'm actually going to be using another colorway of that Cascade 220. Both of this and the Japanese Maple I purchased at Looped Yarn Works in Washington, DC, and this is the colorway Lavender. I really like in both of these yarns that they have very subtle color marling and variegation within the pattern, and I'm very excited to see what these swatch into and how these eventual sweaters look. And I think for a sweater like the Moby sweater, which has some pretty elaborate cabling, I think that a lighter color is going to really make those cables shine. Moving on to the last couple of patterns, these are both bulky weight patterns, and the first one that I have is the Boyfriend's Cable Pullover by Gail Bunn. This is a free pattern that you can get from Yarnspirations. Gail Bunn is an absolute legend of knitting patterns. The sweater is a raglan construction. It features several cable panels and a folded collar. It is a bulky weight knit, as I mentioned, with 15 stitches to 20 rows on 6 millimeter needles, and it recommends 2 to 4 inches of positive ease. The yarn that is recommended for this pattern is Patton's Shetland Chunky or Patton's Shetland Chunky Tweed. The regular chunky is 75% acrylic and 25% wool. I'm going to be using a yarn that hasn't quite made it to my house yet, but I have purchased it. I purchased the Wool of the Andes Bulky from Knit Picks, which is a 100% wool, in the color Clarity, which is a very light snowy blue color. We are down to our last pattern, and I have the sweater number 9 by My Favorite Things Knitwear for you. This is a top-down raglan with a high neck. It's very simple as well, and the pattern does give an option for a longer version or a more cropped version. This is a bulky weight pattern with 14 stitches and 19 rows on 4.5 millimeter needles. I couldn't find the positive ease info, but I'm guessing based on the pictures that it's somewhere between 6 and 10 inches of positive ease. It has a really nice loose fit. The pattern recommends Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino, which is a 100% merino, held together with the soft silk mohair from the same line, but I am going to be using Malabriga Rios in Casa Pueblo, which is a really rich denim blue. I'm a big fan of Malabrigo, and this is a really wonderful 100% superwash merino wool that I'm very excited to get using on my needles. And that is all the knitted patterns that I have for today. If you have a favorite fall sweater that didn't get mentioned in this video, please consider commenting below and sharing with the rest of us. Please also consider giving this video a like and subscribing to my channel. I make videos about knitting and crochet once a week that are interspersed with a couple of little TikToks here and there as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.